Hi everyone, I'm here with Uma. She's a self-love coach and she's here to give us some more self-love basically. So hi Uma.
Hi Camilla, it's really nice to be doing this interview with you. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to have this conversation.
Yes. And little fun fact, Uma is actually one of the people that made me realize that I needed to start over and gave me some really wise words. So I would definitely tap into her advice because it was extra helpful for me. So thank you again for that.
Oh, no, it's really nice to hear that that helped you because I know what it's like to be in that place where you feel like you do want that massive change, but you don't, like you've got all these kind of thoughts and fears going around in your mind that stop you having that clarity on what it is that you're meant to be doing and kind of how to move forward. So I can completely relate to that. So I'm really glad that you've been able to, overcome that and get clarity for yourself and what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is that it's a process. I had this conversation with someone else that, like, I was listening to podcasts and stuff, and I felt like it was always this thing that, like, suddenly you're on Mount Kilimanjaro and everything's clear, and you know what you're going to do with your life, and suddenly you have a successful business. And the reality of it is, as you know, I think you have a bit of a similar experience, is you make the choice and you get there slowly, but it doesn't mean that suddenly your life completely changes, and bam, you have, successful business, bam, everything happens really quick. It's also about having the patience with yourself. And the thing that you said that really helped me was about how I shouldn't measure myself by my achievements, but just love myself for me. So I think that's the main thing that I'm really working on, as well as having all these other projects that are successful, but that's not how I'm trying to define myself. And it's not like the moment I chose to move, everything suddenly fell into place immediately. But enough about me. I think what is always really interesting is to hear about your startover project and where you came from.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I guess I like to always say a few years ago, I was literally like 5, 6 years ago, I was literally sat at my desk in London. I was working as a receptionist part-time and kind of freelance fashion designing on the side. And I've been working in fashion for quite a few years. And I just come to this place where I was like so burnt out and kind of depressed and just feeling so lost and stuck in myself and like literally having these anxiety attacks every day. And I don't know, I just felt like a mess inside. And I was like one of those perfectionist type people who always like needed to, I don't know, like type A, like needed to always get high grades and like high achieving and put all my kind of self-worth in how good enough I was and how kind of well succeeding I was. And I just come to this place where I just had this like nagging feeling inside that there was something more that I was meant to be doing. I wasn't like fully utilizing my potential. And like I wanted to have a life that had a purpose and a meaning. And I was always one of those people that, for me, life was about following your dreams and kind of making your dreams come true. But at the same time, at that point, I was just feeling like a massive failure. And yeah, I just really wasn't feeling good enough in myself. And I was just super self-critical about everything. And I had just so much kind of self-doubt. And yeah, and I think I was just reading a lot into putting my self-worth into my achievements and like how well like my image looked in life and like how successful I was, how much money I had, and kind of me kind of being that super kind of high achiever and just listening to everybody's advice on how my life should be type thing. And yeah, just kind of constantly having this nagging feeling inside. And so yeah, so I think for me it was kind of like a continual journey in that kind of period. I was like at this place of knowing I need to love myself, but not knowing kind of what does self-love actually mean. So I'd literally be Googling at work, like, what does self-love mean? And like literally reading all the articles and just trying to figure out my life and like what I was good enough for, like what I was meant to be doing, like what is like my calling or my purpose, like, yeah, what am I literally kind of good enough and talented enough to be doing in this world? Because I felt, you know, I wasn't good enough for anything. I had so kind of little self-confidence at the time. And I guess kind of I got obsessed with this whole personal development kind of world and kind of law of attraction and yeah, that kind of whole spiritual self-growth and kind of healing. And just really in, yeah, I guess in this kind of quest and trying to figure out myself and what I was meant for, just learning a lot about mindset and how kind of your emotional kind of trauma and kind of how your background and kind of how your current thoughts are really kind of shaping your reality right now. And yeah, and I guess that journey and kind of like figuring out myself and kind of growing kind of self-confidence in myself, like, yeah, just got me really passionate about kind of sharing this message of self-love with through coaching. And yeah, there was a part of me at the time that knew that I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how I could help people. I didn't feel qualified or good enough in any way. And yeah, there was a part of me that knew that I wanted to be a coach. And whenever I started talking about it to people, then they'd quickly say stuff like, oh, you're too young, or kind of say comments that kind of squished my dreams, or say, I don't know, just things that made me feel kind of crazy, I guess, for having these big dreams and ideas. So I just always put that to bed and just thought, oh, that's just not for me. And so, yeah, so I think this journey kind of slowly evolved for me over those couple of years into just kind of one day just making that decision, I have to go for this, I have to do this, and slowly just making a big leap for myself. So I literally one day booked a one-way ticket to come and live in Bali after I'd been seeing people kind of living this digital nomad lifestyle. And at that time I think I'd kind of hit rock bottom in myself, in like this just this lost up place, and just knowing that I had to do something, knowing that I had to like stop caring what other people were thinking and just take a gigantic leap for myself and do the things that were, you know, I was planning but never actually taking action on, type thing. And so me taking that big leap and kind of coming to Bali with no backup plan and kind of committing to this digital nomad lifestyle, I guess threw me in the deep end and kind of pushed me to have no choice but to commit to that journey, if that makes sense. And so I guess like you said, like, it's things don't fall in place overnight, but it's about, you have to make that decision to commit to that journey and trust that you're going to find all the right answers and everything is going to snowball and kind of fall in place. But it's that commitment and decision to stick to that pathway and stick to committing to creating a life that is true and in alignment with you. And I like to say it's about making that decision to create a soul inspired life, a life that is in alignment to who you are. And that's not always going to be kind of easy or kind of straightforward or the natural kind of automatic pathway that we would have taken if we were just listening to everyone else and doing what's expected of us, like, you know, going to school, getting a degree, getting a job, getting a mortgage, getting married, and that kind of pathway. And I like to call that kind of the pathway that's kind of with that foundation of fear. It's based on other people's expectations. It's based on kind of your limiting beliefs and like your self-worth issues versus kind of you taking a leap of faith and kind of trusting and listening to what's inside versus kind of what's outside, type thing. So yeah, so I guess like the whole my brand, my coaching brand, Soul Glamour, came about, I guess, a couple of years after I'd been living in Bali, when I realized I guess like my fashion side of kind of glamour and kind of loving that kind of that side of life, but then also kind of this soul side and that being a really important aspect to me. And really realizing that following your dreams is about kind of self-love and really kind of following that journey of kind of self-realization within yourself, really kind of uncovering who you are on the inside and kind of allowing yourself to be that true version of you that maybe you haven't allowed yourself to be, kind of based on what other people have expected you to be all your life. And just realizing that, you know, no matter who you are and no matter how you're feeling in yourself, there's this kind of inner glamorous kind of version of you inside who's always kind of infinitely worthy. That's the part of us that's, you know, connected to the universe or whatever like higher power you believe in. And that's the part of you that, you know, no kind of outside kind of success or wealth or kind of relationship can make you better than, type thing. Because when you're kind of looking to start a new pathway for yourself, I really think it relates to your confidence and how you see yourself. And so much of that when you start out is really based on all these outside things that you've learned to put your self-worth in. And it's just really important to kind of undo all that conditioning of where you've learned to place your self-worth in and start to kind of get your self-worth from the inside, where it's based on kind of nothing but who you always were intended to be, like when you were born on this planet, and kind of using that to create your life and kind of letting that lead the way versus you know, being like, when I have this successful business, then I'm going to be happy, then I'm going to feel good enough in yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how
I,
kind of
I
the whole.
feel I feel exactly what you mean, and sometimes you kind of have to hit that complete blank slate of, it's not exactly a rock bottom, but it's kind of like taking away, as you say, all the conditioning of what you have assessed your worth with. And once you've layered off that, say, I can love myself like this, I'm
Yeah.
loving myself like this. Not sure what happened there to your, can you hear me, Uma? Oh yeah, you'd frozen a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. But basically, like the whole like layering, and once you take that away and are able to start loving yourself, or like have this process of self-love, and it is exactly as you say, you know, that's you getting in touch with your glamourous soul inside. So maybe that's what some people mean by the kind of Kilimanjaro moment, as I call it. Because maybe that's the moment you feel like, okay, I'm going to love myself. And so it's, you do have a change inside you in a way. I feel that that does happen once you do take the decision that to not listen to what other people think about you and what your life should be. But I feel sometimes some people portray it as you make that decision and suddenly everything falls into place perfectly.
Yeah.
But there is an inner peace that comes with it, I would say. So for people that might have thought what I said was a bit negative, there is that inner peace to not forget about. So I just wanted to make that little amendment. But I find your story so inspiring because it is really truly taking such a leap of faith. Like I moved with my parents, but like you just moved to Bali and you just started over and you just really did this dream that probably like your family and friends back home at the beginning must have thought, what is she doing, quarter life crisis or something.
Yeah. Probably.
So
So
well
that.
done on you.
Yeah, and I think at the time, like just literally just before I was reading, just before I made that decision, I was reading this book, The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a Fuck. And I think there was an exercise in the book, and I just started writing down a list of the things that I wished I didn't give a fuck about. And most of the things that I was giving a fuck about was the stuff that people thought of me. So, and then I think something clicked inside me. I was just like, I don't want to live my life anymore in this way, kind of constantly worrying what other people are saying to me and kind of the advice they're trying to give to me, and me listening to it when actually I want to go this way in life.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And it is so important. I love lists, so that you made a list and that helped you. It's amazing. But I think it is so important. Also, there was one when I was looking at like because as you know, I wasn't very happy with my career, and basically one of the first things that you need to do if you're not happy with your career is something similar. It's basically say, if I had a gap year and I just wouldn't have to worry about money, what would I be doing? And then that list kind of helps you to see what you might be more passionate about, or truly where your heart is with when you don't listen to those conventions. And that I think is so important. It's a way to kind of connect to your inner child and its own dreams, really.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it is still important, and maybe people will be watching this that don't understand exactly what kind of typical signs that you are on a wrong path, and like maybe we could like illustrate some of those. I think you have some very good ones. Well, you have mentioned some in your story, but maybe if we highlight them, that would be good.
Yeah, I think it's honestly like a feeling, like it's kind of like that feeling of kind of disconnect. You really, you know, kind of anxiety, dread, kind of this sense of obligation and responsibility. Like one of mine was just feeling constantly exhausted and drained, and just not having the energy for anything, and you know, nothing that no amount of sleep could give you, type thing. And I think when you're living a life that's in alignment to you and you're doing things, you know that you're on the right pathway, that naturally kind of energizes you from the inside out. There's no kind of outward thing that you could be doing, like more sleep or whatever, that's going to energize you in that same way. when you're living a life that's going against who you are, it's naturally just going to drain you, and it's going to feel like you have to force yourself, and versus it feeling natural and feeling kind of naturally inspired. And it's not to say that you're going to have those same challenges and there's going to be things that you feel scared to face, but I think it has a completely different energy to it. So it's really about feeling. And I think it's really, I think we can live in a way that's so kind of disconnected from our body, and we can be constantly in our mind and constantly in our kind of think we need to be doing this and doing that. And, you know, we need to be staying in this job, we need to stick it out or whatever. But I think it's really about tuning in with your actual body and your actual feelings. And I think that can take practice. And I like to say it's kind of like sitting down with your soul with like candles and wine. Because I think we spend so much of our life just running away from ourselves. Like, you know, like for me, when I was living in London, I was literally kind of going out every weekend, getting drunk, spending the weekend hungover, like dating kind of guys, like on repeat type thing. And, you know, coming home like exhausted every night, just never having any time for myself, and always looking for the next party or the next distraction. And the idea of sitting at home and kind of facing myself wasn't like, that felt scary to me. So I think it's really about taking the time to connect to you and just hearing what is it that you have to say. And, you know, instead of running away from yourself and running away from the answers that your kind of inner being has to give you, because I think you always know deep down. And I think if you're in this place where you're questioning whether you're on the right path, you will have this nagging feeling. You will have this feeling, but you don't have that clarity on what you're meant to do with it or what is the right direction to go. But it's just trusting you have this nagging feeling that there's something kind of not quite right. You're not on the right pathway, or something is out of alignment. So it's about kind of how can you honor that feeling? How can you take time to reconnect to that thing that's kind of nudging you and kind of almost yelling at you sometimes, or shouting at you quietly inside. And yeah, really connecting to that voice, like doing things like journaling, kind of meditating, kind of spending time alone in nature, listening to people that inspire you, and kind of almost kind of going on a dream research, like researching and looking at different people, kind of reading things that are inspiring and motivating, and just hearing different people's perspectives and outlooks. Because right now you could probably be stuck in kind of your job and with your friends, and everyone has the same mindset around you that's keeping you in this current life. And right now you have this nagging feeling that maybe something is not quite right. So you need to kind of expand your horizons to inspire those ideas and inklings, and kind of give yourself permission for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope.
Yeah, I think that definitely sums it up. And I really like your kind of expression of saying that you need to kind of wine and dine yourself, because that was definitely it. And I remember my flatmate who had gone through something similar, and she just told me one day, like, Camilla, I never see you in the flat. Like, you literally come in and out every day. Like, even during the week after work, you'd like, you know, kickboxing or like go doing something. You're never at home. You just need to, you know, have a night in, make a bath, and just sit with yourself and sit with your feelings. Because she'd see me every once in a while having like these kind of like breakdowns of like being really upset about whether it was like my current relationship at the time, or whether it was about my career, or just me being unhappy on some level. And sometimes it could be like the smallest thing that would trigger me, like, you know, seeing a friend saying something even not related to me, and it could just trigger me when I'd go home. So I think that is definitely very important. And I think the whole thing that you said about distracting yourself is very much possibly more an issue in bigger towns. Like in London, it's very easy to constantly be looking for something else. So it takes almost so long if you have all these distractions, and then you have some negative people in your life. So it takes a while to actually get that noise out and realize what's the positives in your life, because of course it can be surrounded by positive people that mean well for you, but maybe might not really know what you need. But then there are the people that kind of like don't want to push you away. And so from that path, that is. So I think it is very important to kind of tune in and hear that voice, even among the noise. And even if it's just a tiny squeal, you then know that eventually you need to get that voice stronger, like get a microphone onto that, because that's, and I think I was telling you a lot of this, that I was struggling a lot with hearing my gut feeling, that I couldn't even choose the simplest things like what ice cream flavor I wanted. And it's just because
Yeah.
you're negating yourself on so many levels that you just can't hear yourself anymore, even for the simplest
Yeah.
thing.
And I
So
definitely relate to that. I had massive indecision, and I couldn't make the simplest decisions for myself. I have decision fatigue, and I'd be like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I make these simple decisions? And I think it is about learning to really trust yourself, and learning to trust kind of that inner being, and learning to know like what that voice is, and giving yourself permission to use that voice, and also giving yourself permission to make mistakes and not get it right all the time. Like, I think we grow up kind of learning that we need to get it right. We need to be on the right pathway. But I think it's about tuning in to ourselves. Like, we're here to kind of experience life. And so kind of almost like giving ourselves permission to dare to do that thing and just see how it goes, and trust that when we listen to ourselves, we're naturally going to take us the right way. But we don't know what that right way is going to look like. We can't ever know what the pathway is going to look like. But it's just being willing to, okay, listen to what your inner guidance is saying right here, right now, and trusting when you take that step, you'll get the information for the next step, and then the next step. That's just trusting you can take that leap into the unknown, even though you might not know what that pathway kind of looks like ahead of you. If that makes sense.
yeah,
It's like,
it does completely make sense, and I
it's
feel
like that clarity will grow when you take that first step.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. I think though it is maybe, you kind of answered my next question, but maybe we can go a bit more into it. But like, what is a good start to set life goals and how to achieve them? So I'd say the first thing is, taking that first step, like you moving to Bali, for example. But how would you set life goals? Like, what would be your advice for the next step?
Okay. So for the first thing I would do is kind of almost make a commitment to yourself first, in kind of reconnecting to you and really getting to know you on a new level. Because if you think of your life journey is always about kind of connecting to yourself even more, and kind of undoing the layers of yourself, and kind of experiencing more joy, more happiness, more love within yourself. And kind of those outward goals that you're kind of chasing, they're always going to be about a reflection of who you are on the inside, and it's about you kind of expressing that on the outside. So the more that you commit to reconnecting with you when you're looking to create change in yourself, the more that you can create something and create goals that are in alignment to you. So I think journaling is a perfect way to start, and kind of committing to journaling every day, and perhaps kind of writing out what your kind of dream lifestyle would look like, kind of asking yourself kind of self-coaching questions, kind of asking yourself, if you were kind of in alignment to who you know that you deep down are, like what would that look like right now? And just asking kind of different questions that kind of are similar, like what would it look like being true to you? So you're getting really clear on what are your values, what are your kind of standards in life, what are the things that you really stand for. Like if tomorrow was like your last day, if you knew tomorrow was your last day, what would you want to give your life for? Because those are the things that you want to get really clear on and important on. And what is your truth? Like, what are the things that really deeply matter to you? And if the whole world wasn't watching, type thing, what are the things that you'd be doing? Because we like live our life based on other people's values, or based on the values that we think we should have. And I think it's just about getting really clear on what is really important to you. What do you want to give your life for? What do you believe that your life was given for? And I think we all have that inner being that has all those answers, that kind of higher self version of you that already knows what she wants to do on this planet, already knows how she wants to express herself through whatever kind of her endeavors are, like whether it's creativity, whether it's kind of building a multi-figure business, or whatever it is. You already know kind of how you're meant to express yourself and share yourself on this planet. And so it's just reconnecting to her and reconnecting to those values and standards, and then asking yourself, how can you kind of live out those standards, how can you live out those values in your goals? And always coming back to that vision, always coming back to connecting to that every day. Then I think the goals come naturally once you kind of keep reminding yourself of those kind of things that are important to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I keep thinking, you know, when you said like, you know, about connecting to what you really like and who you really are, and just getting to know yourself better. I always think that and I still haven't done this, but I keep thinking I need to make a long list of all these things that I like and I dislike, and you know, how I prefer my food. And I know it sounds maybe a bit crazy, but it's just because of all those indecisive moments in the past, and in times in which I've actually thought I didn't have an opinion about something, but actually, yes, I do care how my pasta is cooked. And it can be something just as simple as that, that is like kind of so good to have that awareness. And there's something about putting pen to paper that really puts it down. And of course, it doesn't mean that you can't change your opinions. And I doubt I'll ever like soft cooked pasta, but you know what I mean. It's like you can be flexible, that this is just, you know, you in this moment in time. But I keep thinking I need to just make this really long list. I'm very clear about who I am, also outside of the position in which someone likes asks me how I like my pasta. I just am very clear that's how I like my pasta. And I swear I'm not hungry, but apparently I always talk about food. But I thought it was like the easiest example, and it always makes me think of not Runaway Bride. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Okay, um so in Runaway Bride, there's Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. It's not actually such a great movie, but there's this one thing that caught me when I saw it like years and years ago, is that basically she can never commit to a guy and always runs away from the altar. But basically, with every single boyfriend, she would eat her eggs in a different way. So if the boyfriend liked eggs Benedict, that was her favorite way. If her boyfriend liked scrambled eggs, that was her favorite eggs as well. And there's this journalist that is Richard Gere, and he kind of just asks her, "How do you like your eggs?" It's like, "Oh, that's my fiance." But then when everything falls apart, she basically puts a plate of all these different eggs to figure out what's her kind of actual favorite egg. And I think
Yeah.
it is that thing that you just need to kind of go to the basics of just figuring out, actually, is this truly me, or is it just that I've adapted to others to not be an inconvenience? And this might be from your childhood or from anything else. And I feel like me and you are quite similar in that. I don't know why, but I feel like, you know, we've always tried to please others rather than ourselves, to the point that almost we don't even know anymore what we prefer in certain ways, or at least that's how it was.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it, you're there. But I think it is, I don't know why I wanted to mention that list, because you mentioned lists and then I got excited.
Yeah, I think it's also an important thing to realize, like, this journey is like always like there's always like more layers to peel within yourself. So like, rather than feeling like you need to be this finished perfect person and need to get there to their type thing, like always seeing it as an ever journey within yourself. And you know, like, you're always going to get to a better place within yourself, like if you have this pattern of people pleasing, say, but you're still, that pattern is still going to come up in another way for you to kind of heal and resolve in your journey. So it's kind of always like committing to healing those things that you know are kind of the things that have held you back in the past, and continuing to kind of commit to not letting that hold you back, but realizing it's going to come up in different ways, and like having that kind of self-love and patience with yourself, that, and kindness with yourself, that it's okay that you don't have to completely have your people pleasing things sorted, but it's just being aware and kind of making amends with yourself to commit to kind of realigning yourself whenever you find yourself falling back into that trap of people pleasing, because you're still human, and there's still going to be parts of you that does want to people please, and you might find yourself in that trap sometimes, but at least now you have the information and awareness to know better and to navigate yourself back when you do find yourself doing that.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing I think about this journey. And yeah, and I think as well, I think it's about really you know, even though you're on a pathway of fashion or kind of art or kind of writing or whatever it is you're doing on the surface, just understanding that's a surface thing, but it's about underneath, like what are the core kind of values and feelings that you want to feel underneath. Like, so when, like, for example, like when Julia Roberts is eating the eggs, like no matter what style eggs they're in, what is it that actually matters to her about the eggs? Is it about her experiencing pleasure in that moment and eating the eggs? Or is it about her kind of connecting with her boyfriend at the time and having that connection and having that kind of loving relationship and being seen, or kind of giving love or whatever? And rather than it being about the surface thing, but about what is the feeling that whatever you're chasing in goals or whatever, or striving for, what is it that you ultimately want to feel in yourself, and what are those feelings, what are the feelings that kind of matter to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think that is such a good point, and I think it is so important to align yourself with those feelings, and also to have an awareness of yourself, so that when you don't know, you truly don't know, and it's okay that you don't know, and it's okay that you feel indecisive if that's the feeling in the moment, but that you do know your gut well enough to know that you truly don't know right now. It's not that you're lost, if that makes sense, and
Yeah.
that it's okay to have those feelings. But yeah, I really like that, like is the alignment with what you feel and like what is important to you. I think that is such a good point that will definitely
Yeah.
resonate with a lot of people, and uh, that maybe it is kind of obvious but not really. Like, I hadn't thought of it that way, and that's why I love doing these kind of interviews, because it always shows me the same bars from a different angle, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
thank you. I feel like you answered that question really well, so is there anything else you want to add to that one?
Yeah, I guess as well, like with the whole people pleasing thing, like when you recognize that you've got a pattern like people pleasing, it's just really important to be really kind to yourself and know that, okay, you've had like your entire lifetime so far with this ingrained habit of people pleasing. So you've never had to make that decision for yourself and have the opportunity to put yourself first and say, hey, I want this, because you're so used to kind of coming from that guilty kind of obligation kind
Mm.
of feeling all the time. So it's about really being, okay, you have to kind of be kind and patient with yourself. So how can you kind of, what are the kind of skills that you can now start teaching yourself to kind of train yourself out of that people pleasing habit? Maybe it's just having the confidence to put yourself first. And it doesn't matter what, if you get it right and deciding the right thing, but it's just the fact that you just put yourself first and you spoke up first. Or it's about kind of you making you just choosing anything and not caring whether it's the right or wrong decision in that moment, but practicing something that moves you out of that people pleasing habit and kind of moves you out of feeling that guilt around whatever drives that people pleasing, and gets you to start practicing something different, gets you to start kind of feeling worthy, like, hey, reminding yourself inside, hey, I'm worthy to put myself first in this situation. Type thing. Yeah. So yeah, just in this big and the small ways, how can you teach yourself new skills and new habits that you spent like a lifetime kind of doing the opposite with?
Yeah, it's kind of retraining yourself in a way.
Yeah.
I think that kind of really leads well into the next question. So let's say I'm working on being less people pleasing. How do I identify moments in which I can be more productive, and how to optimize the productivity? And this might be also for someone setting up their own business or doing something else, but how do I navigate that kind of confusion? Let's put it like that.
Okay, people pleasing and kind of being really productive with yourself and
Yeah, basically, like, in what moments, because you know you have this goal, let's put it, you know you have this goal, but you don't know exactly how to work towards it, as in productivity wise. You might get distracted by it, or you might have bad sleeping patterns. Like, is there any sort of like advice that you give people when they're like, I really want to improve this, but I don't know when to do it, I don't know how to do it, basically?
yeah. Okay, so I know the number one thing I think is kind of having boundaries and prioritizing self-care. So
Mm.
if you know that you've got this big goal, I would look at first of all, I'd look at when are your most productive hours in the day. For example, for me, like the first few hours in the morning from say kind of 7, 8 a.m. to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock is like my peak time. So that's a time where I don't want to organize anything, and that's my time. Like I'll go to a coffee shop, or I'll go somewhere where I know I'm most productive, and I can just sit away and I'll get something done during that time. And sometimes I don't give myself, plan what I need to achieve in that time. I just kind of trust that I have this space of time for me to work on whatever I need to work on, and just trust that whenever I give my, whatever days I have to work on my business, I know that I've got that time to use towards whatever goals I'm working on at the moment. That's kind of my time. And yeah, I'm really strict about that. I guess I don't like to kind of drink anymore, because I know that kind of affects my kind of well-being and how much energy I have. I'm really clear on what affects my energy and what affects my emotions. And and that can be kind of types of foods that I'm eating, that can be how much sleep I'm getting, that can be the people I'm hanging around, that can be when I kind of arrange to see people type thing. It's just being really clear on having boundaries around that time, and kind of really prioritizing the time that that works really well for you, and sticking to it, and having that kind of grounded sense of routine, so that you've got that kind of sense of foundation and space for you to create whatever it is you're bringing into life. Because a lot of the time when you're starting out on something, you have overwhelm as well. Sometimes you don't know where to get started, and you feel like you don't have enough time or whatever. And it's just really important to give yourself space and kind of create this sense of grounding and foundation for you to bring this goal into life. And just really looking at what are you putting into your life that is going to kind of help you be that kind of best version of yourself. What are the things that trip you up? What are the things that kind of drag you down? So for me, I know, after kind of getting to know myself on this journey, it's just really knowing what messes with my energy and what doesn't. And when I used to be living in London, I used to be drinking a lot, socializing and going to bed late, and kind of dating all the wrong guys. And that just completely mucked up how I was feeling all the time. So up and down, and my energy was just being drained to wrong people or alcohol, or eating the wrong food and stuff. So I think those kind of things all feed into it.
And I mean, I think there's definitely the thing, of course, the alcohol or the patterns that you might have that drain your energy. I think that's a very important thing about energy vampires, as they're called, and just being with the wrong people. And there's that thing that you're a mix of the 5 people you spend most time with, and so you have to be careful who you spend time with and how they might influence you. And I think a lot of people might have experienced this, for those that actually did a lockdown during the pandemic, of actually having to sit with themselves and their feeling and who they're in quarantine with. And I feel like that might have been why some couples might have split up, or some people might have had issues with their flatmates, but others might have had complete realization of how they're living their life and how to change it. So we are kind of forced to have that moment with ourselves. But I think it is so important to understand what really drains you, as you said. And it is also so much about this energy that you give to other people. Like when I was in London and I was trying to date and finding men, and it wasn't about yes, I would go out and enjoy my friends, but often it would be who's the hot guy in this bar kind of thing. I was always on alert. And well, not always, there are times actually I wasn't. Thankfully, I did sometimes just enjoy the night out with my friends. But then it's also when I'd be on dating apps, I'd be giving these chances to all these guys I actually would never talk to, just because you never know, and then those are hours and hours that I just spent and giving energy to the wrong people. And it can be both whether it's dating apps or friends or whichever. It's if you're at work, you kind of don't have a choice, who you're giving energy to with your colleagues, but there's still ways of setting boundaries with colleagues, for example. And and still navigating that system. I feel that's a whole other subject. But
Yeah,
in most
definitely.
other situations, you can control how much time you spend with people and how much energy you give to certain people. And also at the same time, if you are in a workplace where you are with a lot of people that are not good for you, maybe that's also an issue that you need to change career path. But I feel I'm going off a tangent now, but I just wanted to add a little addendum to what you said because I feel it's so relatable. um
Yeah, I think it's also about your intention, like you said. It's okay to spend time with yourself, like going out and dating and meeting new people and kind of giving people that you might not usually a chance. But it's also like connecting with your intention. Like, are you going out or meeting up with this person or that going to actually fill you up? And just getting really clear on, hey, what is actually filling you up? Is this person filling you up? Is this person leaving you feeling elevated and safe and secure in who you are? Or are they leaving you feeling kind of doubtful in yourself? Are they kind of, are you going to wake up tomorrow feeling demotivated to work on your dreams because yesterday you had a conversation with someone who wasn't particularly supportive, or they're leaving you kind of feeling insecure and not so great about yourself? And yeah, just getting really aware of your intentions. Are you running away from spending time on your goal because it feels too overwhelming and scary and it's just easy to go out another night tonight type thing? And yeah, and just looking at the long, and a really good way to ask kind of check in with yourself is just ask yourself, is this kind of short-term pleasure or long-term pleasure?
yes.
Like, so sometimes it is about kind of sacrificing going out on this night out because it's just a short-term pleasure and it's not going to fulfill you long-term,
Mm,
versus you maybe staying in, getting a really great night's sleep, waking up really early and kind of feeling really fresh and amazing,
yeah.
and to work on your goals, which are going to create a kind of long-term pleasure in your life.
Yeah, that is definitely the thing. And I feel it is so important also. You just remind me of something, even though you didn't say that exactly, but it is also about when you decide to be in your own space. And I had this thing, and I already started doing it when I was living in London, that I would only like make my room nice if I had someone come over, or like tidy my flat if I knew a friend was coming over. And then I read somewhere that, always have your house as if you had a guest, because you're the guest in a way, like to kind of treat
Yeah.
yourself as if you were the best guest there. So, make your bed when you're leaving the house, like, buy yourself flowers if you want flowers, and like the small things to just kind of create that zone. So you do want to be at home, and so it's not like, oh, I'm not going to go out tonight, and then be in this messy flat with things all over, but rather like, I'm going to stay in and work on myself, or have an early night's sleep and wake up and be in this really peaceful place and read a nice book, or listen to a podcast, or do whatever sets you towards your goal. While if you even
Yeah.
space around you is overwhelming, it's very difficult to not feel overwhelmed or confused. And I think that,
Yeah, definitely. And yeah,
go on.
yeah, I think environment is so important to kind of elevating your mood. And if you can make, whether it's wherever the place that you choose to do your work, that you choose somewhere that lights you up, or is putting that effort into making your home just nicer and more comforting and your sanctuary, then it just creates that mood and puts you in the right vibration for you to feel more inspired and feel more good about yourself. And like you said, like, have that kind of more self-care, putting yourself first type thing.
Yeah, and I think there's the other thing. If like someone like, well, you're kind of a digital nomad, but I guess plenty of digital nomads that just kind of choose maybe an Airbnb or something that resonates with them, but they just have like a backpack and a laptop, and that's what they travel the world around. So I feel I kind of just wanted to spell it out. It's not about like having the little perfect home. It's just about being in a space that is you, without it having to maybe be yours, but that resonates with you and is peaceful to you and brings you peace. Whether it is your home or whether it is the beach or nature or whichever place that you're happy to be there. And then I think that's the first layer to then being okay with being alone with yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, being in environments that light you up, and that's going to look completely different to whoever you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because sometimes it can be difficult to, when you're like completely starting over, you feel like you have to have these steps. Like if you're like, well, I can't just, I can't afford to travel, there's a pandemic, I would love to travel, but then it's about finding those pieces of what you would want around you. So you'd want to go and see nature, well, maybe there's a park down the road, or maybe you can take a train trip somewhere. And it's about those small things that matter to you, you can still bring them to you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I always like to say, like it's about the essence that we want to bring into our life. Like, if you want this kind of paradise or type essence in your life, how can you bring that vibe into your life right now, wherever you are, type thing. And yeah, just really thinking about, rather than it always having to be, oh, I need to be abroad, what you think those things are going to give you, into the now type thing, and utilize what you have now to give you that feeling. Yeah, and just really making use of the, I guess, richness that you have in your life now. Because so often we're just so focused on what we don't have type thing, or what we can't do, versus how can we can always bring that essence and feeling of what it is that we do want to create into our life right now.
Yeah, I think you've said it so well. And unless you want to add anything, I feel like we've ended on a really positive note. I mean, the whole conversation was really, really good and enlightening. But I feel like that's a very good place to stop with the nowness and what you've got around you, and finding the beauty in that. But of course, if you wish to add anything.
No, I think that sums it up as well. I love how you kind of sum that up. That, yeah, just it's really important when you're focused on starting over. I know that for me, I was so focused on, I need to create this massive change. Like, and getting so frustrated with why won't things change kind of overnight type thing. And yeah, getting frustrated with that one step forward, two steps back type feeling.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just so important to really love the journey and just really focus on how can you love what you're doing right now, whether that's kind of creating a beautiful environment, finding somewhere to work that kind of lights you up. Just, yeah, how can you bring that kind of beauty into the now, and just, yeah, tapping into the richness or whatever you have in your life right now to create the next tomorrow, the next now. Because it all kind of, it all compounds, and one day you're going to wake up and realize things really did change for you.
Yeah, and I think it is a lot about figuring out exactly what is you like. So there might be about the nowness. It sometimes can help, maybe if you're just like looking at Instagram or Pinterest and seeing things that resonate with you, and maybe that's what, even though you might think that's actually not me, maybe you do want that space. So, but at the same time, I'm not saying spend hours and hours on social media, because that can be quite draining as well and take away the positive energy. But I feel sometimes just seeing and something that you said before about like having that kind of those, not exactly mentors, but those, what's the word you use, but like the kind of like people that you look up to, and maybe see how they live their life, and maybe how
inspiring.
And
giving you ideas.
Exactly. So I think that is such a good point, and it's definitely inspiring and helpful. And I think we've all learned a lot from this. This should be our Instagram. So yay! And I definitely recommend checking out your profile. Do you want to give like a brief line of what you do, and like how you can help out people if they want to reach out to you? What your programs are?
Yeah, so you can find me on at the Soul Glamour on Instagram, or you can go to thesoulglamour.com, which is my website. But yeah, basically I'm a self-love coach. So primarily when I'm working with women, I'm really working on, helping you really love yourself for who you are, so you can create those dreams that are kind of right now feeling too good to be true, whether it's helping you kind of uncover your purpose, creating kind of the loving relationships that maybe right now feel kind of out of reach for you. And taking a leap of faith in your dreams, like creating those goals that are right now, feeling impossible for yourself, but it's really about loving you for who you really are and who you deep down know you're meant to be. And I really believe that all of us have this kind of vision inside of that powerful version of us who we know that we're capable of being.
Yeah.
We haven't yet truly given ourselves permission to be or kind of unleash that version of us. So I like to call it that kind of diamond version of us kind of owning our true kind of self-worth. And I say like our self-worth is like a diamond. So yeah, it's really about helping you tap into and own that version of you, and healing that emotional trauma, those limiting beliefs, that kind of mindset that is holding you back right now and keeping you playing small and keeping you being that small version of yourself that is making you feel unhappy and unfulfilled. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And so I do that through one-to-one coaching, or I also have a group program called Diamond U University, and that's a 10-week group coaching program where I'm coaching you in kind of tapping into that diamond you owning and backing and believing that diamond you, so you can take a leap of faith and go for the dreams that are right now you're holding yourself back on, or kind of not so sure or clear on, or just not feeling good enough for.
That's great. I think you summed it up really well. I mean, of course you did. It's your sales pitch, but I just always love what you do, and I think it's very inspiring, and you're so helpful. And I feel like you say things the way they are in a simple way, but at the same time you make me think about things at a different angle. And I would definitely recommend speaking to you as a coach, because it is truly changing.
Oh, thank you.
It's really, thank you so much. Thanks to you.
I'm really happy. Thank you. And I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so glad to see like you've taken a leap of faith in yourself, and taking that leap and quitting your job. I think that's such a huge step, and you should be really proud of yourself.
Yes. I mean, I do feel 1,000 times better. It was also the most toxic environment I've ever been in. So, but yes, it was definitely really, really good. But thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, have a beautiful day.
You too. Speak soon. Bye bye.